You can change the world. Learn from proven change makers from all walks of life. They'll show you how to raise money, invest for impact, and so much more. You can start small. Start today and never quit. You can change the world by strengthening your superpowers. Now, welcome to the Superpowers for Good show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. Welcome, folks. I am so excited. Today we have with us Cheri Sugal, who is the CEO and founder of Integrity Global Partners. And we're going to be talking to her about the incredible work that she is doing around the world to preserve nature and do, prevent climate change, reverse climate change. Anyway, you don't want to miss this episode, so stick around. This is going to be great. Cheri, welcome. We're thrilled to have you. We really are. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Devin. It's great to be here.
Well, pleasure is all ours. I'm excited because, among other things, you're raising on Raise Green. You're raising a round, and I love to see people doing a Reg CF round, especially on Raise Green, because it gives so many more people an opportunity to participate as investors in the great work you're doing. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Give us a quick overview.
Great. Thanks so much, Devin. Our company has decided to do a crowdfund raise with Raise Green. As most people watching this, your viewers know that we just had the 28th Conference of the Parties in Dubai, and out of that, we are still looking at a major shortfall of funding available for what we call nature-based solutions. And that is anything that really protects and restores nature, that prevents additional carbon emissions from entering the atmosphere, and sequesters carbon from natural ecosystems. We have a major shortfall of funding that is not being met through these international processes. And so we decided to try something new and innovative for our space, definitely new for us. We are raising funding specifically for a project that we're doing in Malawi, which is a large-scale landscape restoration project that will help a lot of local households, over 100,000 households, restore a massive area of land back to its natural state, native ecosystems. And we are doing agricultural land management, and we are distributing cookstoves to local communities.
This is such amazing work that you're doing. I'm excited to learn more. You shared some great B-roll footage here. I want to just share this video here to give people a little sense of what we're talking about. But tell us a little bit about what's going on in this video.
Great, thanks. This is us visiting one of the local communities that we're working with. We partnered directly with a community association in northern Malawi. That community association represents those 100,000 households, and those households have empowered this leader of this community association that you see here in the video to represent them in international markets, to be able to raise funding through international markets for this carbon project that we're doing. So you can see, in that video, you can see the women dancing. Everyone's really happy. A lot of this other footage is us really speaking at global conferences about the work that we're doing, sharing our story, and bringing a lot of attention to it.
And I'm starting over at the beginning. We kind of picked up in the middle. But is this Malawi, the scenery here in Malawi that we're looking at?
Yeah, this is the Vwaza Nature Reserve. And oftentimes you'll see just, elephants passing through that landscape. Here you'll see us speaking with one of the chiefs of the villages and in northern Malawi, and they're welcoming us and they're telling us a lot about what they need. You see some footage of women using one of the cook stoves that we're going to be testing. One of the great things about that cook stove is it's mobile, so they can cook outside, which is something really important because for the health benefits, it's really important that women are able to cook in the open air so they're not inhaling smoke while they're cooking in an enclosed structure. Those cook stoves also are really important
Yeah,
solutions.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Those cook stoves, for a lot of years, people were putting, these better cook stoves in homes, and they realized it wasn't yielding the health benefits, even though there was a lot less smoke.
Hmm.
It turns out less isn't good enough.
Yeah, less is not good enough.
So
I
that's
mean, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
it's a
getting it
really
outside is a key solution.
mhm,
Yeah.
absolutely, and
So
there's lots of health benefits, and in addition to that, why cook stoves are so important in this part of the world is there's still millions of people that are cooking over an open flame, and they're using a lot of fuel wood to do that, and so that is one of the major drivers of deforestation in this part of the world. So when we put in place clean cooking solutions, we reduce deforestation, we reduce carbon emissions coming from deforestation. So there's a great climate impact. There's health benefits, as we mentioned. There's also a lot of benefits to the economic well being of these communities because they save a lot of time in what otherwise would be spent collecting fuel wood.
yeah, it's really kind of amazing the number of hours women are spending, especially women, right? Looking for the fuel wood,
Yeah.
and that and water, are two great, huge expenditures of time that can really be saved. So great work. Um, Besides cook stoves, what are some of the other projects you're doing? You're using the key focus. I want to make sure I understand, but I think the key focus is working on taking capital from, let's call it the West or the North, and trying to deploy it through carbon markets with offsets and carbon credits to invest in communities, mostly in what we call the global South. Right? Are we? Am I thinking about that right?
That's absolutely right, Devin. I mean, one of the keys, about a third of the problem of climate change can be solved with nature-based solutions. So, and what we know now is that there is no path to 1.5 degrees if we don't invest in nature-based solutions, if we don't protect and restore forests. But the challenge is in the global South, in order to initiate those projects, there's thousands of great projects. There's thousands of different organizations that are out in the world restoring nature, planting trees, restoring native ecosystems, protecting wilderness areas, but they lack access to capital. And one of the things that we do as a global organization is we bring together our deep financial and carbon market expertise, and we work on behalf of investors to enable them to deploy capital. So we develop projects alongside project developers. We optimize the social and financial returns that can come out of those projects. And we develop what we call risk adjusted, returns for investors so that they can invest in a portfolio of nature-based projects.
It really is an exciting thing that you're doing, but as good and noble as this is, there are some folks that are critical of carbon markets. They point to failed projects and say we shouldn't be doing this. Everyone should just reduce their own carbon. And it seems to me that ignores a powerful reality, at least one, maybe more, but it's a lot cheaper. If we put the capital where it has the most impact first, we can do more good faster. And there is just the time pressure is so acute. If we deploy it regardless of cost, we're gonna deploy too slowly. Am I? But maybe I'm
That's
not thinking about this.
that's
How do you think about it?
that's absolutely right. We have to do everything everywhere all the time, right? We have to do everything right now because we don't have time to wait until the cost of those changes to make internally is feasible. We have very limited time, and to be honest, Devin, the I think your viewers also know this, that a ton of carbon emitted out of a smokestack somewhere in the global north has the same impact on the climate as a ton of carbon coming out of a forest that has been cut down. So if we can find a way to both reduce emissions, and companies have to do that. There is no path to net zero that doesn't involve reductions in house. But when that sort of marginal abatement cost is then so high that they can do so a lot cheaper by investing in projects that reduce and remove carbon from the atmosphere in the global south. It just makes a lot more sense, right? These market solutions have worked in the past, and this has the potential to be an enormous market. What we know from a financial perspective is this looks like it will be $1 trillion market, and potentially much more than that. So, how do we incentivize companies to do both, right? And it's very right now. It is true exactly what you say, that the solutions in the global south are more cost effective, right? We can have a greater impact for less cost by investing in nature-based solutions.
Well, and the other parallel reality is we can't get. It's really hard to get nature back. And the sooner we deploy, the easier it is. Doing it 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now begins to border on impossible, right? It takes generations, human generations, for really to restore habitats, I guess, right? What do I know? But
It does, and I think your point about the questions regarding carbon markets. One of the things, particularly in the nature-based space, is that we have so many better solutions today than we did in the past. Technology has been surpassing even what the standards are able to do within the voluntary carbon market. So we have the technology now to measure and monitor changes in forest degradation over time in a way that we couldn't before. We can do that from space, and we can do it at a much higher level of accuracy than we could in the past. So technology is really advancing very quickly, and so that improves the accuracy, the transparency with which these projects are being done. And you'll see a lot of changes coming up. This market has been evolving for a very long time. It is very complicated to try to figure out, a counterfactual, right? To protect forests, saying what would happen in the absence of carbon financing into the future. We have the ability now, as we're changing a lot of the way that we measure and monitor these projects, we can do that with greater accuracy and transparency now than we ever could before. So a lot of the critiques of the market are ones that we are solving and have already been solved. And so looking forward, we're not going to have the same sort of criticisms of the carbon markets. The integrity, which is in the name of our company, the integrity of the way we go forward and the way we do these projects is always improving. And we can bring that sort of fairness, transparency, accuracy to the way that we do these projects.
yeah, that's fantastic. Well, uh, listen, everyone, we are so fortunate today. We have with us Cheri Sugal. She is the CEO and founder of Integrity Global Solutions.
Partners.
Did I get that right?
Integrity
Partners,
Global
good integrity global partners. Darn it.
Partners.
I had it on the screen there and I lost. Listen, this is a really special episode. But when we come back, we're going to be talking to Cheri about her superpower. So you don't want to miss this. Stick around. Want to learn from the world's great change makers? Find your superpower. Subscribe to the Superpowers for Good newsletter at superpowersforgood.com. Make your strengths into superpowers that will change the world. Join the super crowd today. Superpowers number 4 good.com. Join us for Supercrowd 24 for 2 full days of wealth and impact creating content at this virtual conference on April 17th and 18th. We'll have 100 speakers and live pitch sessions. Learn how to invest like a pro and raise money from the crowd. Save 50% with the discount code SUPERCROWD at thesupercrowd.com. Join us at Supercrowd Baltimore to connect with community-focused business leaders and investors working to support diverse founders, social entrepreneurs, and community builders. Learn how to raise money from the crowd and how to invest like a pro. March 21st at the B&O Rail Museum. Register today at thesupercrowd.com. Welcome back, everyone. We are so fortunate to have with us today Cheri Sugal. She is the CEO and founder of Integrity Global Partners, and we are so fortunate to have her with us. We're talking to her now about her superpower. Cheri, you've been working at building improved climate systems and addressing climate change and poverty and all these different things in the way they mush and interact, really changing the world for decades. What is your superpower?
Ah, that's a great question, Devin. I think my superpower is just compassion. I've worked in more than 65 countries in really remote areas. I have interacted with people in the most remote parts of this planet, indigenous folks, local communities, women, and I have a real deep sense of compassion for the challenges that people face just surviving. And for me, that's what really motivates me is to find solutions that enable us to solve this nexus, right? This nexus between climate change, poverty, and biodiversity loss. And we can do that by putting people at the center of all of that, by improving their lives, giving them a place in these solutions, partnering with them, making them part of the solution, and improving their livelihoods. We solve so many problems that way. So I think I don't know if it's a superpower
I,
or
I think so. I think so. I think as I've leaned in a little bit to try to understand compassion a little bit better, one of the things that really struck me is that I think it's compassion is empathy in action. And it's just really so much more powerful than merely being able to understand someone else's action, but to be able to understand it and say, I'm going to take action. That's a whole different game, right? And so as you think about your compassion at work, can you think of a time when you deployed that to overcome a significant problem somewhere along the line in the last couple of decades?
I think that in many cases and in many times development work kind of comes from the outside, right? A lot of development work in the past has been about thinking about what people need and then bringing that to them. What I try to do is go and listen, and really listen to what they need. So even in this last trip that you saw on the footage, that was us, listening to those communities and really hearing them. And some of the things we found out that they needed were different than what we could have imagined. Right? They told us they needed distributed water, right? That and so we're looking for solutions for that. That's part of our crowd fundraise, is to think about how do we hear what they need and really bring that into the project rather than taking what we think they need and providing that. So I think that that's a really important part of this work is listening carefully, and also for me, it's a lot about we have this very big, complex financial world in the north, right? I mean, 80% of the planet doesn't understand that, and so a lot of what I've done in my work is explain really complex financial markets, carbon markets, to indigenous people, to local communities who have no real way of connecting with that. But I try to translate that into language that they can understand, into terms that they can understand, so that they can participate in this market from an informed place, right? And then they can tell us what it is that they want. How do they, sell carbon credits from land that they occupy or that they own, right? So it's a really important part of the work we do is this kind of stakeholder engagement work, the compassion that we bring, listening to them, and also women, right? Like listening to women in these remote locations, their needs can be very different, and so we try to do all of that. In our approach to these projects is very much led from a place of caring and listening and trying to put communities front and center.
It's brilliant, and it's so important, to deploy those skills like listening and trying to understand, and then taking action in response. If you were trying to coach someone, a colleague, for instance, who's struggling to manifest compassion, how would you coach them to develop genuine, authentic, effective compassion?
I love that question. I think that everyone's got that within them. And I think everyone has a kind of knows what it's like to care for, a loved one or care for a child. And that is genuinely within all of us. We have to stop looking at other people that might live differently to us. We need to remember that we are all humans living on this earth, and frankly, the challenges are not that different. If you go to a local remote village where people are living, off the grid, no electricity, in a small hut, they still care about all the things that we care about. They care about love, they care about their children, they care about, survival. I mean, it's all the same, right? We are all just human. And, we also, I think for me, it's completely random how people were, where they were born, right? And someone was born into privilege and someone was born in a local village in Malawi, right? It's like, could be any one of us. So we have to care about everybody as if, we it's I think the, philosophy, it's called the veil of ignorance, right? We don't know, like, why we ended up where we ended up, but everyone
That's so true.
deserves to have the same
So
chance in life, right?
Yeah, so true, so true. Well, listen, I am so grateful for you making the time for us today. Before we wrap up, will you take a minute and tell people how they can find your campaign on Raise Green, how they can learn more about the work that you're doing, how they can connect with you, perhaps on social media? What are the best ways to proceed for folks?
Yeah, you can go to our website, is integrityglobalpartners.com. click on the link there, and that'll take you right to our crowdfund campaign. Or you can visit the Raise Green website and find us there.
Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
we are, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And we want to wish you every success in the great work that you're doing. I mean, you're just doing such incredibly important work, preserving nature and supporting disadvantaged communities in the global south that so need our help and support. And we want to wish you every success in all of that work, and particularly now in the short run with your Raise Green campaign. We want to wish you success with that.
Thank you so much, Devin. Really appreciate it.
All righty. Now, let's do some good.